Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. So, in this current landscape, we're all trying to figure out how to adapt our businesses in this evolving landscape. So, appropriately, we entitled this presentation Now, How Do I Network, Sell, and Market My Business? And I'm so thrilled to be sharing the screen today with Kit Letcher, our president and CEO at Better Business Bureau, and Dan Short, who is a digital strategy consultant and owner with Personify Solutions. Welcome to you both this morning. And let's do a really quick introduction and give the audience at home an insight into each of our backgrounds.
Okay, well, I will get started. My name is Kit Letcher. I'm the president and CEO of Better Business Bureau serving Central Oklahoma. And May 20th will actually be my 7-year anniversary with BBB. And so I am so excited to be a part of this team and what we are doing to help make business better here in Oklahoma. Dan, I'll kick it over to you.
Good morning. Thank you. Yes, I'm Dan Short, and I own Personify Solutions. We're a digital strategy consulting company, and we work a lot with clients, especially in sales, marketing, on the digital side. So we help companies make their digital footprint more effective.
Great. Allison Abbott, I am your MC and, of course, co-presenter today. So I'm currently the VP of Communications at the Better Business Bureau serving Central Oklahoma. And prior to my time at BBB, I have a background working in advertising agencies with brands of various sizes and in various industries. So I certainly have empathy for what you're going through right now and in working to handle your marketing efforts. So I'm excited to bring some information and ideas to you today to work through that. So Kit, tell us a little bit about now that we're all home and online. In our future, there will no doubt be a mix of being back in person at some point, coupled with continuing to network online. So give us some insight into how we can do this better while we're currently not in person.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Allison. So when we originally moved to our kind of home environment, the thing that occurred to me is I'm an extrovert. I don't know about you guys, but I love meeting people, and I love that part of my job the most is being around people. And so being forced to be at home just kind of threw a whole new wrench in my operation because I hate being at my desk. And for me, building the relationships is the best part of my job. So what I really had to do was sit down and think about how am I going to continue to network while I'm remote, while we're facing this new landscape and not being able to do this in a way that I'm really used to. And looking at the root of what networking really means to me and to our business at BBB. And so for us, it really has more to do with building relationships and seeing how we can be of service to the individuals and the businesses that we meet, but how we can help connect those people and those businesses as well. And so whenever I think about networking, the first thing that comes to mind is that it has to be really intentional. This isn't something that you do just fly by the seat of your pants. Like if you really sit down and give it some thought, you should be looking at one of two things. What skills am I looking to develop as I network? And meeting people who are going to help you develop those skills in whatever arena that is for you. Or what areas of my business am I looking to develop? Because when you're doing those two things, they really have two different key groups that are going to be able to help you with that and facilitate that process. And so what I want you to be mindful of is that as you're doing this and you're answering those questions, this is the perfect opportunity to really curate that circle of people who are going to help you make that difference. So looking at your social media channels, looking at the podcasts that you listen to, maybe there's a Facebook group that's associated with that podcast where you could dive deeper into those relationships and really meet people within those groups and see how they can be a benefit to you, whether you're building those skills or whether you're developing your organization. Another way to look at this is looking at hobby groups that you could be a part of or philanthropic organizations And I say those two things because if you're looking at developing a different skill set, like for me, something that I've been working on while we've been at home is making more videos. And it's not something that I'm really well versed in doing. And I've had to learn a lot of new tips and tricks and figure out some new tools. And so finding people on my social media channels or through podcasts or even hobby forums who are good at photography and videos is something that I've been gravitating towards because I want to do that better. And I'm going to go find somebody who's an expert in that. I'm not going to just try and do it all by myself because there are people who love this and that's their passion. And so why wouldn't I reach out to them to have them be now part of my network and help me with that? So just some things to think about as you're curating that. But the other part is making sure that you're setting goals for yourself. You know, do I want to meet one person a day? Do I want to meet one person a week? What's your comfort level with those goals so that you are truly being intentional, you know, and whenever we are all done with sheltering in place and we're able to go back to work, what are the things that you can say at the end of this that you accomplished? They don't have to be huge goals. It could be just 15-minute increments of, I'm going to look on social media for 15 minutes a day and find one new person that I want to reach out to and send a social media, like a DM to you, or I'm going to send a phone call or an email or something. So I'm making proactive steps forward, but they're just small baby steps forward. But at the end of this time, it's going to make a huge difference in your business. And as you're doing that, understanding what those measurements look like. So if you set the goal, how do you know that you've been successful in reaching it? So making sure that you are measuring those action steps as you're moving forward. So the next thing I want to talk about is just that. It's your action steps. So what are you doing to put that plan in place once you've got those goals to really make sure that you are being intentional? And the very first thing is creating a plan for the types of meetings that you want to have. Is it, you know, just purely email meetings? Is it sending somebody a DM? Is it having like scheduled coffee chats? Things that where you are having more face-to-face interactions and being intentional about setting those so that you know that you're achieving those goals. And then when you're able to meet that person or you're having those conversations, have a really specific list of questions that you want answered. Because our conversations look very different today than they did 30 days and 60 days ago. You know, we're not sitting down having coffee and saying, oh, tell me about your kids and tell me about your family. And it feels like we've got these little bite-sized chunks of time together that we have to be really thoughtful about that other person's time because you never know, like back here behind me is my bedroom door. I never know when my 8 or 11-year-old's going to pop in and all of a sudden we need to come out of my meeting and help them with homework or whatever project they're working on. So making sure that we're being thoughtful about that list of questions so that you are getting your questions answered. And it also sets up the intention of that meeting. So the other person knows what to expect from you. So being really specific about your intentions from the beginning. Is this a solicitation? Do you need help making videos? And so you just want to pick their brain on how to do that. But really being thoughtful about setting those standards and those expectations up front. And then most importantly, stop. Just listen to what that other person has to say. Because so often, you know, we ask the questions and then we hear their feedback in order to answer or to give them a reply. And that's not what successful networking looks like. Listen to their answers, internalize it so that you can see how it helps to develop you as an individual, develop your skills, or what you can contribute back to that person. Because here's the other part of it. And one of the things that you can see here on my slide is that at the very end of your conversation, you should make notes about the conversation you had with that person. So you know how to continue to move that relationship forward. And I just put a really basic spreadsheet in this that I put together that talks about like who I met, where I met them, how we connected, when was the last conversation that we had, and then any specific notes on what was going to help me have that conversation with them going forward if I have any to-dos, just so that I can help stay on top of where I need to move forward with my next steps. So now that we've got this kind of information, what we're looking for, and another example that I want to give you are templates of if you're not necessarily comfortable, you know, DMing somebody or sending somebody an email, I put together 2 slides or 2 little templates for you that you could use. And one is basically an example of if I wanted to reach out to somebody about networking, what that looks like, making sure that I am being upfront and transparent, that I want to interact with them about networking, but also the reason that I have picked them out of the crowd. And I think that's so important because I know if you guys are like me, you get a lot of LinkedIn messages and it's, hey, Kit, I wanted you to join my network because I can help your business grow by blah, 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 blah. That's not the type of business I'm in. And it clearly demonstrates that they had no thought into making that relationship specific to me and that they never looked at my profile or what is important to me. So when you're making those connections, make sure that you're including in there the thing or the line, what stood out to you and why you really want to form a relationship with this person, why you want to make a connection with this person. Is it something that they said, something they did, an organization that they're a part of? Maybe it's somebody else that they know that you have in common that you said, oh, Allison and I are friends and I know her from this, and I see that you're friends with her too. I think we might have a lot in common. I'd love to get to know you better. Just something that makes that circle, come full circle so that you're not just telling them about yourself, that you are truly engaging with them on a personal level. So I just put those templates in there so you have a tool to go off of. I know that can be kind of tricky sometimes whenever we're talking through like what are the different things that I could be doing, and hopefully that gives you a good starting point. But the final thing I really want to talk about is just the tools, the things that you should be thoughtful about. Now, as we put together our templates, we put together our spreadsheets, what are the things that we should be doing that just helps us move this forward? And like I showed you before, I just put together a spreadsheet on something that I could use if my CRM platform doesn't support or I don't have one that I'm currently using. Spreadsheets are a great thing to use. You can put it together very easy and basic. But also, if you are looking for a CRM, now's a great time to really try them out without having to cost you anything, because there's so many tools out there that people are not able to pay for, that a lot of businesses are saying, use it for 30 days and see what you think. So try a couple of out and see what you think before you buy. Save yourself some money, but take the time to test them. Other things that you can be looking at are virtual meeting platforms like the one we're using today. WebEx is obviously awesome. I know we've done a ton of meetings on Zoom lately, but there's so many platforms out there that I had no idea. You can use Hangouts, you can use Microsoft Teams has a platform, there's GoToMeeting, ClipMeeting, Skype. I mean, just Google web platforms and see what comes up. It's amazing, but plenty of them that you can use for free also. Try it out before you actually buy into it and see what works for you. And finally, just on equipment, we were talking about this a little bit before the call, finding equipment that works for you. I have a standing desk at my house that sits on top of just a regular tabletop that I can and move up and down and arrange in different ways to make it work for me, because I don't really like sitting all day long. So just finding different things that you can try out right now is just going to be so helpful. And the final thing I want to talk about is, now that you have a couple of tips on networking, how do you put together a call to action? And so that's what I'm going to give you. Well, we want you to use this as an opportunity to really transform your business and move it forward, because the landscape that we're facing may never look like it used to. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. This is such a great opportunity to really think outside the box and realize that we have the opportunity to say, why not? And it was funny, I was thinking about this last night. So often we see businesses like, we've always done it this way. I need to stay in this box, or I need to stay in this lane because this is how people have told me to be successful. But right now, all of those boundaries and those walls and those boxes have been broken because we're all doing things differently than we have before. So this is your opportunity to really reach outside of that box and think, why not? Why not try something new and different in a way that I never have before? So I just challenge you to do that. And then a couple of things that we have coming up that I'm really excited about, because we're also thinking outside the box. So BBB has put together a really fantastic peer group program that we are offering to our accredited businesses. And this is a group of business owners or high-level decision makers that come together on a monthly basis and talk about what is happening in our current landscape. What can we do and brainstorm together to help move our businesses forward? And what's great about it is these groups are completely confidential. There's only one person per industry in that group, so you don't have to worry about sharing information with your competition. But it's a trusted group of business leaders who are all going through the same thing, and where we can talk about, here's my struggles, here's the things where I feel like I'm doing a good job, or I need more help. What have you all done about this particular issue or experience, and how can you help my business? And then offering that same level of leadership and compassion and energy to the other people that are in that peer group. So I love peer groups. I've been in one for the last 6 years. And it always seems like it is in every season of my life that I've needed one. So it's been such a huge help to me in my business and as I'm growing as a leader, to have that sounding board. And the final thing I'll tell you, I know I keep saying that, but this truly is the last one. Tomorrow, which is the Wednesday, third Wednesday of the month, we host an ambassador coffee at BBB. And now, because everything's changing, we're doing it virtually. So also trying to think outside the box. We have a really great Eventbrite page and Facebook event so that you can just click on that and join us. There's only 20 spots for this event. It's from 9 to 10 tomorrow morning on the 15th of April, which if you're seeing this later in time, look for our next upcoming event, because we will continue to host these networking coffees. But it's a chance for us to get together and have those discussions and build networking opportunities for people, since that looks a little bit different than they have in years past. So I hope that you can join us. Know that those are your 2 call to actions, that you actually reach out to somebody and form a relationship, or tag them, or send them a DM, or just something that engages with them on what you're wanting to do. And then also RSVP for our upcoming networking events. So when you do those 2 things, make sure that you tag us in it too, at BBB Central OK, so that we know that you're making efforts and strides forward in your networking event. And so I realized that was a lot of information.
Great information.
Networking, but I'm excited about it because, this is something that's so vitally important to our businesses, because those connections, no matter what the landscape looks like, are always important. And it really helps us take that next step when we're talking about how to sell and how to market our business. So with that, I'm so excited to turn it over to Dan and let him tell you more about how to sell for your business and what to look for and how to set up that framework. So Dan, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thanks, Kit. That's great. Yeah, so I think that, you talked about networking and some really good information there. So let's talk a little bit about the sales cycle in the new environment that we're in now. So to start off, there are 3 things, right, given the current situation, that we should be thinking about. The first one is, what are the immediate impacts to our customers, right? What's going on with them right now? We need to find that out. And then obviously after that, how can we help, right? Given that, what changes do we need to make to our service, to our product, to how we network, to how we reach out to our customers and potential customers, and just start thinking about the situations they're in right now. That could be short-term or long-term.
Mhm.
So those are the 3 main questions to keep in mind right now. So next, let's talk about strategy and action. So I'll talk about 4 things. One is tuning your customer persona. We'll talk about customer personas a little bit more. Second is adjusting your service or your product. Third will be developing your short-term, or now maybe your long-term sales approach. And then measuring, pivoting, experiencing, and adapting, because I know we are all going through the adapting phase right now. Everyone's trying to adapt to our current environment. So next, let's take the first one, customer personas. If you haven't done customer personas before, now is a great time. It's really a foundational tool to everything in sales, marketing, networking, whatever. So if you don't have one, I'll talk a bit about that, and then what you can do if you have one today. All right, so what's a persona? Well, it's just who your customer is. And it's really trying to personalize it, right? Who that customer is. And then what are their concerns? What do they want from you, right? So if you don't have a persona now, go ahead and start thinking about creating one. One example is, let's say, because of your product or service, active families are important, right? You sell soccer equipment or sports equipment, or you coach, right? So active family, or maybe a single person, an executive, right? Maybe one of your customer personas, or a caregiver. So you start categorizing who your customers are and really give them an identity of that individual person. All right, so given that, what are they going through now, right? So there may be an employment change. There may be a relocation that they're going through. There may be a status change. So think about what they're going through now and pick three things that they might be facing. So I put up a little blank chart here that you can start filling in. So, maybe an employment change, right? So, if you offer some support services for looking for a job, you may think about that. Uh, Maybe they're thinking more seriously about life insurance. People are a little nervous right now. Maybe they're thinking about that. Or maybe they're thinking about doing a will. And that might be something you don't normally do, but maybe you can start figuring out a way to add advice or bring in other partners to help people with that. So it really helps you start to think outside, right, your normal box of your services and how you can help customers, and think about what that persona is now and going forward. So now selling, right? Adjustments to your product and service. So you might start listing out the services you provide, and then what are the opportunities, right? Like I mentioned before, if they might be looking for some type of insurance upgrade, right? You can start thinking about what slant or what new way of looking at that you may need to deliver to your customers today. Maybe you're in the pool service industry and they want to open their pool early because they're home. So you may offer some sort of discount to do pool service or lawn service, whatever that might be. You start to spin that a little bit and think, okay, this is what my customers are going through now. This is how I can adjust to fit that need. So I urge you to take two or three customer ideas, and talk about that new way of offering a help or a new solution. It's an opportunity, right? Every bad situation has their opportunities. So it's a good time to start looking at how you can help them and new opportunities for you. And some of these may be short-term adjustments, but you may uncover longer-term solutions that you want to offer. And that's really where the opportunity comes in. So it's not that you're trying to take advantage of people, you're still focused on them and trying to help them with what they're confronted with. But at the same time, it can be an opportunity to help you grow and expand your business in ways you hadn't realized before. So it's really a good time to dig a little deeper in that. And if you haven't put some of these things together yet, the persona or your product and service and their opportunities, now's a great time to really take a look at that, because this is foundational stuff, right? And it's always a good time to revisit those things. And now, wow, what a great time to be able to do that. And it's hard to put the word great on anything going on today, but now it's time to really think about those kinds of things. So let's talk about your sales cycle a little bit, right? Every company has a sales cycle. You may not have one written down, but you definitely go through some sort of process when you're selling to people. From finding leads to how you connect to people to qualifying those leads. And Kit has some great ideas on that networking part of it, how you can use tools and the way you approach people now in building that network and building your lead list. Presenting, we'll talk a bit about that. Overcoming objectives, right? Nurturing that lead, giving proposals. Those are all things you do today. So if you don't have a sales cycle now, just write one out, or you can use this one and build on it. So look at this one and go, how are we different from your typical sales cycle? What do we do that's unique or have to do because of our market and our product and service? So think about your sales cycle, going into tools and how you use tools. Having this in mind is really helpful, right? So let's take a couple examples of how this may change in today's environment. So the first one is finding leads, networking. I like the idea of networking and what you have to do and all the tools available, because that's where it all starts. It all begins with networking and finding leads. And Kit has some great ideas on how to do that now that we're in a virtual environment. But again, you may adopt some of those things as a future way of doing business for you. There are lots of tools. Kit talked about some tools. Lots of tools out there. People say, well, where should I start? Well, pick one, but don't rule anything out. I was well coached by the Better Business Bureau to really look into using Facebook, something that I had not considered before because of how I do business and the customers I work with. I'm pretty much B2B, and I think of Facebook as business to consumer, that direct selling, but I'm an advocate now. So I'm really starting to explore how to use Facebook. So the next one we'll look at is connecting, right? Now, we talked about tools and how to connect, but I'm going to focus a little bit on video presence, right? We need to talk about video presence. I'm still learning, right? I'm still creating my video presence, but think about that. Start inserting videos into your slides. There's a great tool called Vidyard that helps you implant your video in a circle inside a document, kind of like what we're doing now. And you can package that up and you can email that to people or post it. So start thinking about how you can use video more and really how your frame is, how you reference yourself. On my website, I just wrote a blog on your video presence and what you can do to enhance that. So the next thing then is presenting, right? Wow. We always talk about engagement. Now more than ever, you got to engage, right? Your slide deck has to be really engaging. It can't be just the bullet points because you're not there in front of them to do your song and dance, right? They're strictly looking at a deck, right? And hopefully your video in a corner, right? So think about presenting standing up. Kid talked about some devices you can get. It gives you more energy. I'm sitting down now, but I'm going to take Kid's advice. I'm going to get something where I can stand up and present because I can be more animated that way. I'm not confined to a chair, and I can really engage the audience and really bring people in more. So think about that, and your presence and your slides and so forth, and really try to engage. And we're presenting, you really have to call people out, really, if you can. And if it's a one-on-one or direct, and they can respond to you, that's a great way to do it. So another point that I'll talk about is overcoming objections, right? So if you have a room like this, right, and people are video in, it's really easy. You can mute your video, you can mute your audio, and you can just sit back and watch. So the problem with that is you really can't get much feedback that you need if you're presenting in a sales cycle, right? So you really have to be a little forward and press people to engage, turn their video on, turn their audio on, ask direct questions. If you put everybody up so you can see them all, you can call on somebody and say, hey, Allison, what do you think about what I just said? And really pull them into the video while you're engaging, especially while you're doing that presentation, right? So next we'll talk a little quickly on nurturing that lead, right? People are more open than ever to engaging by other means. And also, people are really forgiving because they're going through the same thing. They're trying to do video presence, right? And they haven't done it before or done it in any big way. So they're learning. So now more than ever, people are open to you experimenting and very forgiving. If you walk into a conference room with your deck, they expect it to be perfect because they've seen 1,000 of them and they've expected you to do 1,000 of them. Not so much now, right? They may not be used to getting that right now. I have a client that has starting to do their proposals with a video clip, and they have their proposal and they post that on their website. And so when they send a proposal, they send a link, and the person opens that link and they say a video introduction about the proposal and walks them through the proposal because now they can't hand deliver it, right? A lot of people I know like to hand deliver proposals and go over them in person. A lot of times you can't do it in person now, and a lot of times people don't want to jump onto a video call to do that. So package a video with your proposal, and then that will help you nurture that lead going forward. So next, I gave just a little open sales life cycle thing where you can start to fill in some things about how you will do your sales life cycle differently. And maybe be a tool you'll try out, maybe be a couple other things you'll experiment with, and you can put that out there and experiment and see how that works. So just a little worksheet for you. So next, let's talk about measuring. Kit touched on this a little bit, and I want to go more deeply into this. If you haven't done sales analytics, you need to start doing it. The differentiator going forward between you and your competition is how well you use data in your sales and marketing life cycle. So if you're not using data analytics now is a great time to start. And I say start simply, right? Take the spreadsheet that Kit showed you and rank from 1 to 10 how well that kind of engagement worked, right? If you try something on LinkedIn, how well did it work for you? 1 to 10. Was it a 5? Was it an 8? You tried Facebook, you tried video. Start thinking about how well those work and score them. And then if you're part of a team or individual, adjust based on that. Well, man, LinkedIn worked really well and getting some feedback on more videos. So I'm going to try that, right? And track those trends. People are asking you to do it a certain way. Try it and measure it and come back and see how it works and then measure it again. Keep repeating, right? Keep capturing, keep adjusting, and you'll come up with a really nice way of doing your sales and marketing strategy in a new way. And then catch and fix problems as they happen, right? At the end of the month, if you go, well, we missed our sales quota, that's too late. Whatever caused that problem happened 3 weeks early, right? So measure success the right way, make it real time throughout the process. So next, let's close out with just kind of some major things to think about going forward. So the first one is new challenges, but also new opportunities, and what can you look at that you can do either short term and or will be a new opportunity moving forward. Next, think about how everyone works is changing for everyone. Everyone understands. Ask your clients what they're doing. They're selling, right? Find out what they're doing. Share with what you are, and gives you another opportunity for engagement. Then the next one is quickly determine what changes are short term, and again, which ones you want to keep moving forward. Next, think about if things have slowed down, now's the time to adjust for the future. Take time out to think about analytics. Take time out to look at some new ways to use digital marketing. And we can help with that. That's what we do. And finally, take a look at technology, right? That will be the differentiator. Technology right now, more than ever, you got to use it, right? You got to use video capability. So takeaway is I'm going to challenge you, go out and look at a tool like HubSpot. Go on their website. They have a free version. I'm not selling it. I don't get any money for this. Go out and look at it and see what it does. And then look at that, and then look at the spreadsheet that Kit did and start creating something, right? And then as you go forward, see what tools you might be able to get for free that can help you expand on that further. So given that, if you have any other questions or thoughts, definitely post that and let us know if you have any questions, your feedback. We would love to hear from you. And now I'm going to kick it over to Allison.
Dan, thank you so much. Incredible information, because I think that's so much the question on people's mind is, given that the landscape right now is a bit more sensitive and we all know the core topic at hand, can we be selling? And yes is the short answer, but I've got some great thoughts to share here in a moment, some ideas on ways in which you can sell, but to be sensitive to the landscape as well. So with that, now, how do we market our business? Well, as I mentioned in my introduction, having once worked with multiple brands of all sizes and varying industries across my career, and previously in ad agency settings, and now also at BBB with our various accredited businesses, I want to basically give business owners and leadership teams the permission to behave badly, so to speak, because we recognize that unfortunately many of you with the landscape have had to potentially furlough or lay off staff. And so in addition to payroll and running the business, maybe you're out in the field actually meeting your customers, or you're sending out the invoices. You may potentially also be handling the marketing now for your company. Maybe you've had to cut back or cut totally your various vendors that maybe handled that for you previously. And so we want to give you some ideas, but again, permission to take a breath and do some things differently. So some notes here on this particular slide, in this time of crisis, people are just looking for information. It doesn't need to be overly pretty or produced, whether it be graphics, video, or copy. It needs to be really timely. So I found this great resource as we were putting this all together. An agency here in America made this presentation that kind of gives you a gut check, if you will, on various types of information. So, for example, if you're putting something out about selling, here's kind of a rubric and some ideas on ways in which you could position that content, that copy, if you will, as you write it and share that out. So, there's a resource for you to check out. But some other things to think about as you put information out into the world. Some of these things are not novel ideas and perhaps seem really obvious, but here's just a checklist. And it states a checklist before posting. So in this case, social media, but utilize all of your platforms that you have available to you. So if you're not an email marketing expert, it's okay to use Outlook or Gmail or whatever your core information is to email your customers. Maybe you do invoice inserts. So it's okay to create something in Microsoft Word and put new invoice inserts out as you send out mail, but make sure you're going through this checklist. So for example, on the left here, your graphics or images, are they appropriate to the current landscape? Something BBB is being really conscious of in this time is, making sure we're including imagery that doesn't showcase people in a room together or shaking hands in a networking setting, because that's not what we're all experiencing. So being really cognizant of, do the images that you're including, does that really play to the current marketplace? And then of course, do the graphics or images best represent your brand? Whatever that means for each of your businesses, that's going to look really different. But again, what you're putting out, does it represent you and does it represent the current landscape? And then of course, making sure your company name and logo are included. Again, this seems obvious, but when we're all working quickly to get that to get that speed of information out, there's things like that that could be missed. Content over here on the right side of our checklist, is it somehow helpful? You're seeing a lot of brands and a lot of articles and information out right now showcasing helpful information. So for example, Taco Bell, I thought, had a really great ad campaign just last week, and they were advertising, I believe it was Tuesday, April 7th, come through our drive-through and get a free particular taco. And because the commercial is 30 seconds, I didn't have a chance to read all the fine print, so I don't know what the disclaimers were on how many tacos you might get, but the point was they were basically saying in their commercial, we want to help you feed your family. We want to help you get out of the house. We've recognized you need a quick break. Let us help you put food on the table today. And so it was a way in which for them to sell to also look really helpful. In my opinion, that was really smart marketing. So is it helpful? Is it timely? In that case, that particular example, it was really timely because we're all in this. And so they picked a day and said, we're going to do this nationally. But also, as you put out information, did you proofread your phone numbers, all the clickable links, all the things? Again, that might seem obvious, but again, as we're working quickly, make sure you're triple checking everything you put out. And communicate quickly as things evolve. So I've got some great examples in the upcoming slides here. They are social media examples, but remember, as you put information in any platform, any channel, make sure that you're sharing updates quickly and you're updating on your business as it evolves. So here's some examples to help illustrate that. And I've included social handles in the bottom right corner for where I found these examples. So NACS, the National Association of Convenience Stores, they have an annual online conference or annual conference rather, and now they're taking it online completely because we can't all be there in person. We're talking a conference so big, thousands of people all over the world come to this that are somehow affiliated with convenience stores. They have vendors and lots of attendees, and they are now promoting that this conference is online with the speakers on a stage, and very few people, while practicing social distancing, are going to be helped producing this. And those of us that are attending said conference can log in online. So they are keeping up with the times as well as promoting how they are shifting in this landscape. Similarly, New Balance recently shared online that, they're still in the business of manufacturing shoes, they are also now utilizing a lot of those same materials that they utilize to manufacture shoes to now manufacture masks. And they're doing something a little bit different, again, playing to the landscape and keeping people apprised of where they can buy these and how much they are, and that they are working quickly to meet a need in our current marketplace. A local coffee shop here that we actually partner with to do the ambassador coffees that Kit was talking about earlier. In my opinion, they're doing a fantastic job on social media of keeping us all updated of what they have going on. So here's an example of recently they shared, hey, we're doing temporary drive-through only hours, and here are the changes on the dates. They're also doing things like putting out specials if they have them, or sharing, hey, we're doing a food of the day and we're making only so many of them, pre-order yours. And so again, just sharing what they have going on because they want to be connected too, and it's their way of, again, selling by being helpful and keeping people in the know. Another example, a local daycare, they temporarily closed their doors and utilized this opportunity to thoroughly clean and do a little bit of remodeling so that they can keep their customers, their families, and their kids safe in this landscape since they are still open. So they did a great job on social of sharing those updates in real time and sharing what their plans were as to when they would then reopen. A local restaurant is doing a good job as well of sharing information and encouraging us while selling to think about dinner or meals differently with our families. So here they're promoting essentially their curbside pickup since their physical dining room is now closed, and saying, hey, why don't you guys have an indoor picnic? Something that, as many of us are trying to put food on the table and feed our families, we're just trying to get it done and relax and not have it be overly produced. That is dinner time. And so I thought this was a really fun example of how to sell differently and also be helpful in this time. And lastly, a local lifestyle brand that manufactures travel mugs, food storage, and a variety of things, and they sell them globally. They created a water bottle that they've manufactured and they're selling and marketing that 100% of the proceeds go to the COVID-19 fund. And that is really incredible, and promoting different ways in which we can use our water bottles while we're working and moving throughout our house and redeveloping our daily schedule. So things to consider and ideas here as you recreate what you put out about your business and brand, whether on social or whatever channels that you choose. Some other best practices. So if it's social, we talked about that, quick real-time updates, not overly produced. Think about organic videos. Kit mentioned that she's working on videos right now. This is another strategy that BBB is doing with our marketing. And in this time when you can't have a whole camera crew and all the editors available to you potentially, maybe you can't afford them right now because you're watching your finances in your business. It is okay. Permission given to take your camera or an iPad and film yourself. A minute or less is best practice on social, but a couple of 3 minutes on Facebook or LinkedIn is also okay if it's really timely and chock full of good, thorough, and appropriate, meaning links and helpful information. But a minute or less is key, especially if you're utilizing Instagram or Twitter, because each of those platforms has limits for their videos. So something to consider there. And promote online events. So something that we're planning with Dan. So here's a teaser. Check back on buildwithbbb.com, our calendar of events. We're going to be doing a recurring every other week, sort of just a coffee at home fireside like chat with Dan, Kit, and I talking about different topics that are relevant to the timing. So consider doing something informal like that that is also really helpful and informational, but a way in which for you to put out information about what your business is doing and or with other colleagues. So maybe it's a business partner potentially or a partner vendor. And you're sharing information, but that could prevent you from potentially having to create a large PowerPoint and having it to be overly produced, which could take a lot of time and effort that perhaps you don't have right now if you're juggling a lot of hats, bats, balls, and everything else to manage your business. If you haven't already, here's something that a lot of agencies and marketers in the world would suggest. Make sure that your hours are updated both on your website, your social channels, and Google My Business if you utilize that platform. Think about this. because we're all consumers. Whatever we consume, whatever we purchase, we're all looking online to see if folks are open. And if so, what their hours are, and are they only online, and all those different types of information. So please, 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 I plead with you, make sure you're putting out that information and sharing that as well, because people are looking for you. In internal communication, this is key now more than ever. Whatever information you are putting out, whatever channels you choose, make sure that you're sharing that with your staff, letting them know and keeping them apprised of when things are going out or when your online events are, and providing them top level bullets, even simply in an email drafted, and they know that that's there for them to reference as they're talking to your customers online or on the phone. But also make sure you're asking those frontline people when they are online and when they are on the phone, what are they seeing? What are they hearing? What do your customers need? What are they asking about? What are their concerns? If you're listening really carefully, this kind of plays to a lot of the advice that Dan was talking about in the sales section of this presentation. If you're listening carefully, you will be able to quickly pull out some things that you could then create social content around, or other content, or those fireside chats around. You can create content and information around what you're hearing and what your customers are needing. So consider that carefully. So again, as we're all being budget conscious in this time, not knowing exactly what the future holds, here are some tools that we recommend you all look into. So Asana, if you're needing project management software, whether for marketing or otherwise, it's not just built for marketing, by the way. A lot of marketers do use this tool as well. Feel free to check that out. This is a great time to reimagine your processes a little bit for a variety of your departments or services within your business. And a project management software could really help you map that out, all of the steps in it, and then you can assign projects and tasks and such to your personnel to accomplish that work. So consider that. If you were doing regular media interviews or putting out press releases or writing articles or things like that, a service like Metro Monitor, which monitors all of those media mentions online, radio, and television, can really help you track those and create monthly reports, and to see what the dollar figure for those might have been, that added value, if you will, that earned media dollar. So consider that. Metro Monitor has been great to BBB in this landscape. They offered us a month free of reporting. And so, as Kent mentioned, a lot of vendors are doing it right now to be helpful and timely. So something to consider there. If you're not a graphic designer, we highly recommend, if you've not already, to check out Canva. You can get a free account or pay a low monthly fee to have at your fingertips, a variety of pre-made designs that you can then tweak and put information out through all of your channels, social, Eventbrite, website graphics, what have you. And so please, please, please check that out if you're needing graphics help. Dan, you teed me up perfectly for this, for Facebook and Instagram advertising. I'm so glad that you're finding value in that. Here's a link where you can read more about that. If you're not familiar with that, you can set aside a pretty small budget, $100 to $200, and make a pretty decent impact and get some clicks and traffic to your website, your social channels, or your Eventbrite link, depending on what your goals are. So I encourage you to check that out. Wave, if you are making videos organically and maybe you want to add a little graphics to those, or you need to cut them down fairly quickly, Wave is a quick and easy video editing tool, not unlike Canva. It's free, but you can pay a small monthly fee to have upgrades and access to other features within that tool. So feel free to check that out. And Dan, you mentioned Vidyard. Once you've created that video, how do you embed it quickly and easily, whether in a presentation or on your website or otherwise? So something to check out there. So as we look at all of these tools, and these are just an example of a variety of tools, right, that exist out there. I encourage you, whatever your need might be, choose one of these and go check that out. Let that be your call to action of the marketing section of this, and let us know what you learned and potentially how that's helping you. As Kit mentioned earlier, you can feel free to direct message or message us on any of our social channels, and our handle is @BBB Central OK. Lastly, how we can help you. Kit, you talked about some great events and opportunities we have coming up. We also have our monthly Trust Talk, a lunch, learn, and networking series, now online, coming up next week on Thursday, the 23rd, which is also Dan's birthday, incidentally. So Dan's going to be joining us for his birthday on that panel. And we will have representatives from a variety of businesses and industries, Dan and myself included, talking about as we weather the storms, and that really is the title, Weathering the Storms panel. As we do this in the current landscape and with upcoming physical storms that we experience across our state and our region here in Oklahoma, what are some ideas and opportunities for us to have business continuity, to plan in advance of it, and then what do we do after the storm? So we'll be talking through that and sharing ideas again from our fellow panelists in a variety of industries. So now we've reached the Q&A section. Kit and Dan, we've got about 5 to 6 minutes left. Are there other things that you might have thought about as we were going through today that we might share with our audience?
Yeah, I had a couple. Just in part of evaluating what you're doing and measuring, and continuing to adjust. And I was thinking about that in just my presentation now, and I thought, go make sure I hit it at 15 minutes, right? So I set my phone for 15 minutes, and the alarm went off. Well, that's disruptive. So now I'm going to say, well, if I'm going to time it, I'm going to do it in a way where my phone alarm doesn't go off and adjust that. And then the other one is that I noticed that my video is covering up part of my slides. So I'm going to rearrange my slide deck so it allows room for my video frame in the slide without covering up information. So just real 2 quick examples of how you really evaluate what you're doing and then just keep adjusting, right? It's a never-ending process. You're always adjusting and making it better.
You bet. Kit, what about you? What are some additional thoughts that you might have had?
Something I was thinking about just after I got done and listening to both of your presentations is when we are networking, oftentimes we forget to ask other people that we already know where are great places that they have made connections or people that they know. For instance, like Dan is new to BBB and met him through Allison. And so that was a great connection. But really, like using the networks that you currently have. And the thing I forgot to mention is that stack of business cards that you've gotten from other in-person networking events. It's a gold mine. Like this is the perfect place to start. It's your low-hanging fruit. So go back through those business cards and reintroduce yourself to those people if you haven't already built a relationship with them, and just see where they are right now. See what's happening to them and what they are doing as their current landscape is changing also.
Good. Another thought I had, and I intended to mention this, coupled with my permission to behave badly, so to speak, and take a breath and just do what you can do in the way of marketing. If you are only good at one social channel, maybe you're really familiar with Twitter, or you feel really competent with Facebook, or really good at Instagramming, pick one and guide your clientele and everybody in your midst, in your business sphere, if you will, to come back to that particular channel for those real-time updates. Like, do what you can do, especially in this time when many of us are taking on more, even though it feels like we have more time. We're all working really quickly and being forced to work differently. So do what you can do. Don't overwhelm yourselves. Don't take on more than you need to. Great. Well, I don't think we have any other Q&As in the future right now. So Kit and Dan, thank you so much for this incredible information and your time today. And I look forward to our upcoming seeming fireside chat since we'll all be at home. So folks, be looking for additional information about that on buildwithbbb.com, the events calendar there, as well as you can find Dan, Personify Solutions, and at BBB Central OK on LinkedIn and other social channels. Thank you so much for your time today, and have a great afternoon.